Hello, and welcome back to my channel for my weekly message. And before I tell you what my message is, but I'm sure you've seen it on the title, I want to remind you to please like and share my videos. It's so important for everybody to know the truth. All the people who are ready to know the truth, because there's still a lot of people who are not ready, and that's okay. So please like, share, comment, and if you have a specific question, a personal question, you are welcome, as usual, to email me at reikibymaxine.com. And I hope you're all having a great day, evening, afternoon, whatever time it is. And my subject today is why death is not a reality. It's very important since 11/11, which was a couple of days ago, that we had a portal open up and Gaia, our planet, has changed, and we have now entered into the 5th dimension. You can join in that dimension when you awaken and trust what you receive. Follow your higher self and love yourself unconditionally, and drop away all the negative programs that you have based your life on. Now, a lot of people need proof, and I will say this again. I've already had my proof. I share it with you. I don't have you watch my videos to believe everything that I say is your truth. I've taught you how to sway with your higher self to find out if it's your truth, or if you're ready to know this, or whatever it is that you need to know. Now, a lot of people, if you remember, have posted all over the news about near-death experiences, and there's still a lot of non-believers. Now, science will start intuiting reality, but until that happens, some of it has already begun, but until it completely happens, then the only way you can know that what I'm speaking of today is your reality is to do it. I want to explain again how easy it is to connect to whoever or whatever you want. Whoever you want to talk to. We are energy, you send it out. If you are open to receive, you can talk to a tree, you can talk to your past relatives, you can talk to flowers, you can ask your friends who you might have lost contact with to contact you, all here. Because our mind, our body, our thoughts are energy. And so you broadcast it to others and they pick it up. And it's kind of fun because I do it all the time. Every time I haven't talked to somebody in maybe 5 or 6 months, all I have to do is go, I wonder how so-and-so is doing, and the next day they contact me. Or they post something on my Facebook page. And, who needs a telephone, right? Anyway, to get back on the subject, I want to give you just a little bit of experience of how I've come to this. And also, I'm one of those people who have all the senses. I hear, I smell, I see, I feel. So I see people who've passed over. I've communicated with people who passed over. And just to let you know, In this message, I will share with you some people that I reconnected to their father, and how it happened for them too. So don't ever think that you can't do something, because as soon as you say that you can't do something, then you won't be able to. You are that powerful. So I want to remind you, I'm going to remind you in every video, everything you think you know, you watch on television, that you see is not reality. It's all about control. Now, the people who've done this are leaving our planet. We are in the fifth dimension, like I mentioned. So, in order for you to be in the fifth dimension, like I said earlier, you just say, I'm in the fifth dimension. I'm now grounding myself to the fifth dimension instead of the sixth, because I want to be more involved in heaven on earth. And I'm also going to share with you what is coming up in our future. So, enjoy, learn, trust, receive. So, okay. I don't remember the exact date, but I do know that I've always been guided. I've always thought differently than everybody else. Nothing in this world ever made sense to me. And if I questioned things and I didn't think it was true, I was told that I was correct, or what was the truth and what wasn't the truth. And so anyway, that was the beginning. When I was maybe, I don't know, 4, 5, 6. It's been my whole life. And as I have grown and learned and practiced and studied and experienced, you know, it is me. It's who I am in my heart, in my soul. So first off, who are you in truth? You know, we all have issues, problems, personality problems, you know, childhood issues that have masked us. So most everybody walks around in a veil. So in truth, everybody is love. That's all we are. We're not anything else. That's why I say on the planet there's only fear energy or love energy. And when you fear and when you worry and when you stress over things that you don't need to stress over, then you draw that energy to you. And it clogs your mind, veils you even more, and you just have to release it. That's in another video. So what happened? From memory, all I can think of is, I had gone to, an astrologer. And I've talked about my astrologer before. And he told me that one of my friends, by doing her chart, who was pregnant, I mentioned this before too, who was having a baby, astrologically, he looked through her chart, and she did not know this, and said that her baby was going to be sick, or is sick, and is going to come to the planet and is only going to live for a year and pass away. I'm bringing this up again, which I didn't add, is the day the baby left, because it happened exactly as he said. I do have an article on ezine.com that says, if you want to be pregnant and you want to have a child, read my article first before you start spending all kinds of money for artificial insemination or whatever doctors do. So the day the baby left the planet, I was laying in my bed and had a vision. And I could see, now this baby in 1 year grew maybe, I don't know, maybe got as high as 10 pounds in a year. And so the day that this baby left the planet, I saw the baby traveling up to the heavens. And the baby had balloons, was fat, smiling, bubbly, and very happy. That was the beginning. Now, through my life back in the 80s, when I started getting involved in spirituality, and it was a string of events, but anyway, I started taking the astrology class and learned a lot through the astrology, and learned about that through astrology, and learned more about myself, because that's what astrology is. It's who you are. It's not what's in the newspapers or online and stuff of general readings. It has to have your birth date, your time, and it can only relate to you. So anyway, he had told me I needed to meditate, and I have a lot of air influence. So my mind goes 24/7. It's always doing something, thinking, analyzing. It's tough sometimes to be me, but in any case. So anyway, I went to this church, which wasn't it wasn't a religious thing by no means. It was filled with psychics and channelers, and there was a meditation class. So anyway, if you pay $3, we're talking 80s, and you put your name in a hat or something, and if you were lucky, if this channeler pulled your card and you could talk to her. Now, I channel these messages I'm giving to you right now, but you see me. Now, some people have made pacts with spirit guides, and they step aside, and this entity comes in their body. Now, they hear it, they can talk to them, but the voice and the facial expressions is not from this world. If you haven't seen it, you can experience it by watching Blossom Goodchild. She's on YouTube, and she's that type of channeler. Anyway, there's a lot of people who do that. So, this lady, she was like that. She was the most amazing woman. But anyway, somebody that I know, when I was 15, had an abortion. It was a forced abortion from her family. And because abortions were not illegal or whatever, they went off to Mexico and did it. So, fast forward, I'm 16. When I had this session with this woman, I was probably 20-something. And she says to me, did somebody in your family die? And I'm like, no. Did somebody in your family lose a child? And I'm like, no. Is someone of your friends lose a child? And I said, well, do you count abortion? And she goes, oh, yes. So she says, there's a girl here, and her name is Jolene. And she wants to tell your friend that she was supposed to leave the planet. And to tell your friend not to mourn her anymore and not to feel guilty or sad, because when you pass over, then you grow in spirit. So if you're a child, you can grow to 30. You can pick your name, and that's what she did. She picked her name. When you leave this planet, as you all call death, you transition to another dimension, and you are with all your family and your friends and all the people that you've spent time with in all your other lifetimes and all the people that you've known from this life. And you, if you're older and you leave, like in your 80s, 90s, or you're ill or you have cancer or whatever, you can go to healing chambers and be healed off this planet when you make your transition. So you heal first and then you live your life, because Earth is just a school. It's not home. Now I'm going to talk about that later. So death is a transition into another dimension. And you go back to being who you truly are, which is true love. And all the rainbows and the colors are colors that you have not seen on this planet. And you can manifest anything you want. So it's kind of like when you dream. When you dream, you're not on planet Earth. Let's put it that way. It's like that. Don't you dream and see people that have passed over, have conversations with them? You really are doing that. When you dream, you can be, one minute you're on a mountaintop, the next minute you might be in France, the next minute you might be somewhere else. And it's bam, 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 bam. Well, that's what it's like when you leave Earth. So there's nothing to fear. If you want to think about heaven and hell, this is hell. And when you leave, you go back home. I mean, that's reality. But because of the density and the brainwashing and the control and all these other strange things that have been done to this planet, you're all stuck in this darkness, in this low, low vibration. And I'm assuming you're watching my videos because you're awakening and you want to learn more. So that was an experience that I had. When you leave the planet, you have chosen this before. You came here to learn. If you've learned everything you needed to learn, and even if that means 2 years old, if it means 20 years old, then you leave. You go back home and you do the rest of the work. And that's how it is. Now, another experience that I had was my nephew. It's actually, seeing spirits started in places of worship, I guess I can say, because I never went to church, and I was born into a Jewish family. I've been to synagogue a couple of times when I was a child, but was, learned right away that religion was not from God. So I don't read religion, don't study the religions, don't know the religions, don't follow any of it. But anyway, my nephew was bar mitzvahed when he was 13. He's now 46. And I was there, and I saw a man. Well, he was on a stage in the synagogue. I don't really remember exactly where we were, but there was a stage, and he was standing up there with the rabbi, etc., whatever, doing his thing. And there was another man I could see walking across the stage. But I knew he wasn't real, if that makes sense. He wasn't in his human body, but I saw him as a human, but nobody else saw him. So anyway, he was walking around stage. He was around the pastor, the rabbi, and my nephew, and et cetera, et cetera. And I just kept watching him, and I was more focused on him. And when the service was over, and I walked into the lobby, there was paintings on the lobby, and there was a painting of this man that I saw on stage. And on the bottom of the painting, he was a rabbi in that synagogue, and it had his birth and his death. So that's the first time I saw. And from there, it went every time I went to some meetup or some spiritual thing, I saw spirits and entities. So I knew that that was a reality. So then, let me think. I went to school in my 50s. I went back to college, and I went to night school, and all the classrooms that I were in, maybe because the school is old, I really don't know, but all the teachers' relatives who weren't on the planet came, and they all came to me. And one person came to me, to this teacher, dressed like in white, like she was a nurse or a doctor. I didn't know which one, but I knew whoever she was. She worked in a hospital. Now, we're on vibrational rates. So she was vibrating at my level, so I could see her perfectly. When people come around me, I don't see their whole bodies, or I don't see color. But when I see colors, it's because they can match my vibrational rate. So, this lady kept telling me she wanted me to give this teacher a message because she was his mother who had left the planet. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell him that. He's going to think I'm crazy, and he's my teacher. And she's like, no, he's into it. Just tell him. So I waited till class was over, and I told him that your mother was here, and she has a message for you. And instead of like saying, well, how do you know? Or what did she look like? Or whatever. He's talking to me like I know her, and I don't. I've never seen her before. Didn't know anything about her. And he goes, well, she was like 90s and all wrinkled, and she was real sick, and she was in a nursing home. And how is she doing? And I said, well, when you pass over, if you're 90 something and you're sick, you go into a healing chamber and you get healed, and then you choose how you want to appear. And she chose to be 30. Most people do that. So she looked 30 to me. So I told him she was fine, she was well, she was happy. And I gave him the message, and he said, yeah, that sounds just like my mother. Now, if you're a type of person who can speak to people who've left the planet, then those people will come to you in such a way that you can tell somebody else about them. Like, I didn't know she was a nurse, so I had to say, well, I think your mother was here. Is she a nurse or a doctor? And he goes, oh yeah, she was a nurse. So that's how they appear to you. In fact, just last week, one of my close Facebook friends has been chatting with me about her husband who's passed, and she has his picture on the on her Facebook as her cover photo. And one day I was laying in bed, and he came to my room dressed exactly like that, so I knew it was him. Now, I was on the phone and I was busy, so we didn't have a conversation or anything, but he came and he went really fast and smiled at me, blah, blah, blah. Now, let's see. What else? Oh, I was in school working as a tutor, and this girl walks in, and she's got this girl behind her, but the girl is surrounded by light, and she moves around. Now you can kind of see this on my video. There's a white light around me, behind me, that follows me when I move, and that is a spirit who's with me. And so you can see them that way sometimes, if you see it at all. So I don't fear what people think. So I walked up to her after class, and I said, I don't want to alarm you, but there was a girl with you. somebody that you know who's passed over. She looked at me. She goes, I do know someone. She said, so I'm going to go home and talk to my mom about it. I said, okay, that's fine. And I said, I don't want to scare you. And it was Friday. Monday, she comes back to school, and she has a photo of this girl that I saw. And she shows me this picture, and she says, is that who you saw? And I said, yeah, that's who I saw. She says, well, let me tell you, that was my best friend who was murdered let's see, I don't even know what time of the year this was. I think obviously it wasn't summer because we were in school. So last August, so it was maybe November, December. So in August of that year, she said, and it was plastered all over the news. I don't watch the news. But she said she was murdered in the park and she was my best friend. So I said, well, she stays with you, she follows you, she protects you. Do you see? This is how I know. Anyway, one of my friends, her aunt or grandmother came to me. She was my hairdresser, and she'd come to me while she was cutting her hair. And so I told her the message and, whatever else I need to tell her. And she started crying, but she was very happy, and she said that she'd like to connect with her. And I said, just connect. And this is what I wanted to bring up, is it's about believing. That's what it's about. It's just about believing it. And then you ask, and then it happens. I mean, because it's your destiny. It's who you really are. You just don't know this. That's why everything that I tell you is not that difficult. So I was at a party, fast forward, and she was there, of course. And this other girl was there, and we were discussing how, I connected her with her father and, whatever. And then she said, gosh, I wish I could talk to my father. And then, bam, her father shows up. Now, her father shows up and tells me how he left the planet. Describes to me what he looks like. Because I can't explain it to you, but you don't see it, but you see it. And it flashes to you like a dream. Like, when you have a dream and you can see pictures, of course, in your dream. That's what it's like. So the thought becomes a picture. The picture is what you see. And that's how it works. I can't get into it any more than that. So I said, your father is here. Did he pass away from a car accident? And, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, yes, 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 yes. And then she started crying. She was all happy. And so I gave her the messages from her father. And I said, you can do this too. And so the next time there was this party, because this was a party that I used to attend years ago from people who I don't really see anymore, but they were like twice a year parties in the backyard of her house. So when I saw her again, she told me that she was now connected to her father, and she was thanking me that she was able to do that. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. Now, there's people out there, and that's all they do. And they do TV shows and such. They charge an awful lot of money to connect with your loved ones. Now, this is one of the most important messages about this that you really need to understand. Now, y'all spend a fortune on funerals and caskets, and you take flowers to the gravesite, and you do this whole ritual thing, and you cry and you cry and you mourn, and then you celebrate their death every year, and then you cry again and you're depressed. And that is such a no. When people pass over, you might be sad, of course, especially, excuse me, if it was, a boyfriend, a husband, a loved one. But Celebrate their passing. Don't mourn them. Because I want to tell you something. When you mourn your past relatives, friends, lovers, whatever, you do them no good whatsoever. In fact, they're not even allowed to be around you when you do that because it's negative. It's not reality. And you hurt them. And so just think about if you were in a situation where you're right here, like the movie Ghosts, let's say. They're not ghosts, but let's just say you're just right here. And you can't talk to me, let's say me, because I don't see you, I don't hear you, I don't believe you. You're not real. And so you see me crying over you. How would you feel if you were in that situation and you couldn't say anything to that person? You couldn't get through to them. You would not be happy. And this is the most important message that I want to share with you at this particular time about what you call death. These relatives, children, you have children from other lifetimes you don't even remember. You have parents from other lifetimes you don't remember who have not come back to Earth. A lot of people have come back to Earth. My mother, she's come back. But before she came back, I had a dream about her. And when she walked into my dream, she had just passed and she was all bent over and crooked. And she wasn't even like that in real life. But we did not have a good relationship. And she says to me, well, first she walked into my house. This is in my dream. And I had a spiritual book on the counter, and she picks it up and she looks at me and she's, why didn't you tell me about this when I was alive? And I said, because you didn't believe anything I told you. You didn't listen to anything I said. And then she walked out and closed the door. Well, after her healing, she came back and then we established a relationship. Now, I've talked about this before, but if you haven't heard this before, I said to her, show me when you're here. I want to know when you're here. And so she was able to pick up the dome top of my cheap old trash can and throw it on the floor. Very loud bang. And I'd go, oh, Mom, you're here. And then I could feel her energy through my body. And then I knew she was here. Now, because I'm an automatic writer, I get the messages in writing better than just like some psychics do. So I would start writing. I'd say, wait, because she'd start talking to me and it goes so fast I don't remember. So I would write it down. And so she would give me messages of all kinds of things that way. And she came around until she came back to Earth. So I don't have a relationship with her anymore. I know that her energy is still around, but that's neither here nor there. So now I did see Jesus and Gandhi in pure living color. They were able to match my vibration, but they're very high vibrational beings. And just from that experience, I'm assuming that I am too, because I was able to see them just like you see me right now. So I don't want you to fear death. I wish you would save your money, maybe just cremate these people until something changes, because this is what's happening and this is what's coming. Before I just saw a note. I also want to tell you about when you leave the planet, that you also only leave when your time is right, if that makes sense. So there are no accidents. There are no mistakes. Even though, there's people who've just left the planet through the fires. Very awful way to go. But I do want to tell you that they did not feel a thing. Even though they were in car, some people were in their cars and were burnt to death. They did not feel a thing. And I'm going to tell you, I know this for sure. God is creator source energy. We are only love. All the pain, all the suffering, all the stress that you go through is going on this planet because of the density and the takeover that's happened here. So nobody experiences that, any kind of pain. And guess what? You can prove that to yourself, because I have. Because that's who I am. Now, I broke my ankle. No, well, first, before that, I asked people who were in accidents. Like, I remember this car accident. We were on a caravan, and this guy was traveling really, really fast. And we were on like this 2-lane, not a mountain, but Northern California, very wooded road. And he was speeding and his car spun out of control. And his car was like a little sports car, and it slammed into a tree sideways, of course, on the side she was at. And it broke her arm in like 5 different places. And I can still hear her screams. And anyway, it took hours for an ambulance to come because we were pretty much in the middle of nowhere. But anyway, I went and visited her in the hospital, and I asked her, do you remember screaming? And no. Do you remember the accident? No. Did you feel anything? No. So now I ask people who've been shot with guns. I know a guy who should be dead. I know a lot of people who should be dead and aren't because it was not their time. Now, but I've asked each one of them, did you feel the bullet going in your brain? Now think about it. A bullet went right here. That person didn't die because it wasn't his time. And I said to him, why do you not have any hair? I mean, other than the fact that you might shave your head, you don't have any hair anywhere on your body. You don't even have any eyebrows, no eyelashes, nothing. And he goes, well, I was born in Detroit, and when you're in Detroit, you deal with negative things, shootings. I've been shot a number of times, but yeah, I was shot in the head, and that's how it affected me. Somehow it hit a spot in my brain where I don't grow hair anymore. Is he paralyzed? No. Is he crazy? No. Is he insane? No. Is he retarded? No. Because he wasn't supposed to be. That's it. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing because I just wish you all knew this, believed it, trusted it. Let me think. Oh, okay. So my ex-husband, who is born again Christian, he's not awake at all. He reads the Bible, believes in everything, thinks that I'm like, I sold my soul to Satan because I know all this stuff that he doesn't believe in, whatever. But he was in an ocean, drowning because he couldn't swim at the time. And he said in 1 second, he was on the shore. Doesn't even know how he got to the shore. But he's also a person who I told you before, who was in a car accident, drunk, drank a whole bottle of alcohol. That's how drunk he was, out of his mind, 70 miles an hour, hit a parked semi-tractor trailer, and walked out with a lacerated knee. So you see, he's got things to do, and until he's finished, he ain't leaving. And he doesn't even have anything happen to his body. So he needs to be whole in his body, if that makes sense. I have another friend who almost drowned. Well, actually was drowning because he was in the water and the water was below zero or whatever. It wasn't below zero, but it was where he got hypothermia. It was that cold. And he lost all feeling. He became completely paralyzed. And as he was going under, because he couldn't even swim, because his arms were even paralyzed, he said, well, I didn't think I would be leaving the planet like this, but I guess it's my time. And this voice said, no, it's not your time, and threw him off to shore. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. Doctors will say if you've been, underwater a certain amount of time, this happens to you. And if it doesn't happen to you, oh, it's a miracle. No, it's pre-planned. That's it. It's predestined. So, oh, and what I forgot to mention, okay, so I broke my ankle. I was on a trail, and it was in a park, actually, and I don't know. It wasn't any steep mountain or anything like that. It was just a trail with rocks. Well, I've walked on those a million times, but that particular day I slid, and my ankle, I didn't do it. I mean, because if you've ever slid, you don't turn your ankle all the way to the left. But you see, it was destiny. And I know why, I'll tell you why. But anyway, my ankle turned all the way to the left, and I heard it snap. And I go, oh, I broke my ankle. Nonchalantly. I heard it snap, didn't feel a thing. So I didn't purposely tested it. That makes sense. I tested it because it happened to me. So maybe the other reason it happened to me so I could share these things with you. I don't know. But trust me, of course, after it happened, and then I couldn't stand on it, then I felt the pain. But the process of it, I didn't feel it. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. The process you don't feel. I mean, you've seen pictures of people who've been in car accidents, who've died, and they show them above the body, seeing themselves on the ground, seeing all the people crying. Do you know during a funeral that your relatives attend those funerals and watch them because they can? They don't hang around, though, because you're all crying and upset, and it's not a good scene for them. And I've mentioned this also before. There's no time period, because time isn't a reality. So people leave the planet, and bam, my father and my first husband came to me the day they left. And I brought this up before, too. My father came and gave me a message because my daughter was so distraught and wanted me to know and tell her the story, which I did. Now, just last month, October, I think it was the 5th, my first husband passed. Now, my first husband was married and been married to this, his wife for 20-something years. I was only married to him for 4, but we grew up together. Our connection was different. He taught me everything I needed to know, like about checkbooks and how to drive a stick shift and all of that kind of stuff he taught me. And he was my first man that I had sex with. I was his first. So, he was 17 and I was 15 when we met. And, I got pregnant 6 months out of high school. So that's why we got married. He was not ready for it. That's why our marriage didn't last. But that's not the point. The point is that we've always been connected on a deeper level because of our early childhood. And then one day I did go to a psychic who did past life readings, and she had told me about a past life that we had had. And I had told him when we were on the planet, when he was on the planet, about it. Anyway, first, what happens when you leave the planet, you do kind of like see a movie of all the people that you've come across in your life and all the things that you've done that upset them. And so he apparently had seen that movie because he came right to me and he was crying and he was so sad and he was apologizing to me. Just like my mother came when she first passed and she apologized and she cried. And my father didn't. He apologized. He didn't cry because he hasn't transitioned. He's a ghost. But that's another thing. So I told him, I said, look, don't cry. Don't be upset because I've forgiven you. I understand life. I understand the process. And so it's okay. I'm good. And then about a week later, he came back and he was totally different because his energy was different. He wasn't sad and low and depressed. His energy was full of light. And I was happy that he left the planet because he was miserable the whole time he was here. And so it was good for him to go. And he had cancer. And he had curable cancer, but he didn't even want to cure it. So he really didn't even want to be here. But anyway, he was laughing and he was letting me know that he was okay and he was happy and, you know, whatever. And then he said, I want to share another lifetime that we had together. And so he told me that he was with me in Atlantis too. And so that was cool. So pretty much the reason for this video is for you to understand more and more about the truth and the reality. And this is what's headed. I can't tell you when this is going to happen because a lot of my poetry that I thought was happening like now, I wrote back in 2012. And it's about now because time, again, as I said before, is not a reality. So Gaia is our planet. We call it Gaia too. And November the 11th, which was just a few days ago, was the most powerful day of the universe because 2018 numerology, whatever, breaks down to the number 11. If you add the numbers together, it becomes an 11. So it was an 11-11-11 year. And right at this particular time, right now where I'm sitting, it is now 11-11. Which means my angels are here guiding me with this message for you. So on 11-11-11, this big portal opened. And Earth had transitioned off of the third and fourth dimension into 5D. So heaven has left and come to Earth. So you right now can do the things that I do. You can manifest whatever you want. You can ask for anything. That was the most powerful day to manifest everything. But you still can. And you can enter into heaven right here on planet Earth by releasing and flowing with reality, with releasing and crying out everything that upsets you, everything that you've buried in you, cry it out and start practicing and saying positive affirmations to keep your vibration high. And when you start to think negatively, stop it right away and say, I am love, I am happy, I am peace, until you feel it. And start connecting with your past ones in happiness and love and peace, not mourning them and upsetting them. I'm sure you don't want to upset them, so don't. And if you go down that road, they can't stay with you. They won't be around you. They're not even allowed to. So when you are blissful and happy and peaceful, that would be the time to make the connection. And that's why sometimes you dream about them and spend time with them in your dreams, because you do. So what is going to happen is, let's see, we have chosen to come here to learn because Earth has been a school. And then when our time is up, we go. We leave and we go other places, do other things, whatever. And we have fun. You can party. You can walk in the forest. You can have a car. You don't even need to eat. But if you wanted to, let's say you miss eating a steak for whatever reason, you can manifest a steak. Sit down and eat a steak. The difference would be that steak that you're eating did not come from a cow, because we do not kill animals. And eventually the world is going to go vegan. And if you could start now, start trying to practice eating vegetarian meals here and there and releasing stuff, that's what you need to do. But what will happen is if you don't, you'll be forced to, because then you'll eat that meat and you'll get a stomach ache. You'll end up in the hospital. I mean, all these things are orchestrated. So back to the positive. There was a picture posted on Facebook yesterday of a purple and yellow sky that looked like a leaf. And the yellow was intertwined with the purple, and the purple was dark. Now, this is reality. And so this is part of the new earth. But this is what's going to happen. Right now, we go back and forth in different bodies. You've been on this planet as a different person. Like my neighbor down the hall said she remembers experiencing World War II. And she was a soldier in World War II and she got hit. She got killed right here, and she remembers. So now she's not a man, she's a woman. That's my point. So if we are all here during this time when this happens, then your body eventually will change to when you were younger. So like, I will go back to being like 30 again. And I tell myself every day I'm 30 so I don't get stuck in the density of stupidity and aging. And then your body will be on this planet, Earth, for 2,000 years before it needs to get a new one. And there will be no sickness, no illness, no disease, no wars, no tragedy, none of it. Because Earth will be heaven. Earth is already heaven. And so you don't need to want to leave. I mean, you can if that's your destiny, whatever, but that's what's coming. Don't ask me when, because I really don't know. And what do you do right now? Right now, you realize that time is not real and you only live in the present moment. And know that if you're sick, if a doctor gives you a death sentence, you can change it. If a doctor tells you that you're paralyzed for life, that's not necessarily true. If it's your destiny to deal with that at this particular time, then you will. Eventually, you will walk. When you dream at night, you run, you walk, you hop, you skip, you do all those things that you can't do in your human form. So you can start healing yourself and learning the things that you need to learn and the things that you need to change about yourself for your growth process. And stop blaming everything and everybody for everything that goes on, because you've been guided to do that too. So anyway, I thought I would do this quickly, but now I see almost an hour has gone by. I'm very sorry that I've gone on and on again for another hour. I hope you've watched the whole thing, or that you paused it and continued it till the end at a later date. Anyway, this is pretty much my message. Just to be happy. Tap into your love energy. Send peace and love to everyone else. And stay away from negative friends, negative people, negative family. Because you don't need to be around any of those people, because they just drag you down. Sending you off today again with peace, love, harmony, and wisdom. Thank you for joining me.